In lesson 30 of 5-Minute Theory, we're going to reinforce what we know about whole steps and half steps. Then we're going to use that to build a new scale called a chromatic scale. So let's start off at the top of the page by writing our name in. In each of these following measures, we're going to name the two notes, then indicate if the distance is a half step or a whole step, which you remember is 2 half steps. So I have a little keyboard here just to kind of help you visualize how far the notes are apart, whether they're halves or whole. Okay, so if I have a C to a C sharp, you know, here's a C and here's a C sharp, so that is obviously a half step. Here is a D. Then am I going to a D flat? So here on the keyboard is a D, here's a D flat, and I know that that is a half step. Well, let's keep going. The next note is E, going to F, and I should be able to visualize this in my head, but here's an E, here's an F, that is a half step. All right, now A flat and G flat, okay, here's your A, so here's your A flat, here's your G flat, so that is a whole step. So I write a W instead of a half. Then A sharp, find that on a keyboard. Here's A sharp, and then my next note is B, which is going to be just that natural note. So there is my half step. Keep going. B, I have a B, I know where that is, up to C sharp. So here's C sharp, so half step equals whole step. And then last one, E to D. E to D is boop, boop, a whole step. All right, now in the second line, I'm going to use the key signature to name the two notes. So with this key signature, 3 flats, I know it's going to be B, E, and A. Hopefully you know how the key signatures work. It's always in the same order, B, E, and A. Any notes in this line, there's no accidentals in this line, so I have to apply the key signature to that. So here's my note A, but I know from the key signature it's A flat. Here's my note B, and I know on the key signature it's B flat. And then the distance between those two notes, if you visualize it in your head, is a whole step. So I really encourage you to, instead of using the keyboard that's on the page, which you can do, is to visualize it in your head so that you have that mental image of where the keys and where the notes are on that keyboard. So let's keep going on number 2. First note is D, second note is E, but in my key signature it would be E flat. If you think about the D and the E flat, you know that that is a half step. Next one, E. Again, key signature flat, F, not a sharp, just F. So E flat to F is a whole step. Keep going. D to C. It's not a D flat, it's not a C sharp. D to C, think about it. D to C is a whole step. G, and here's A, is A natural or A flat in my key signature? Flat. So G to A flat is a half step. All right, keep going. E, we know it's flat. I don't even have to ask you, hopefully. To D, and we know E flat to D is just a half step. B, of course, in the key signature, and C, here's B flat to C, boom, boom, whole step. G to F, here's G, down to F, boom, boom, whole step. All right, so you're getting the hang of this whole step, half step thing, hopefully. In the next line, number 3, the two notes of the following measures have a whole step between them. Make them a half step by raising or lowering the second note. So F to G is a whole step. How do I make that G a half step? So I'm looking at my keyboard here. Here's F, here's G. How do I make that this note? I got to lower this note to a G flat. Keep going, D to C. Let me go ahead and write my note names in here. D to C, boom, boom. How do I make this second note, the C, a half step? How do I make it here? I move it up a half step. So now it becomes a C sharp. All right, keep going. G to F. If I'm looking at my keyboard again, G to F, I'm going to make my F here, which means F sharp. All right, you kind of get the idea. D to E. Okay, D to E, flat. B to A. If I make my second note just, here's a B, here's an A, so I have to make my second note a sharp. So that becomes an A sharp. And then finally C to D. All right, C is down here, here's D. I'm going to make my second one only a half step, so I have to flat that note. So that is a little bit different in a way of thinking about half steps and whole steps, but once you wrap your head around what I'm asking you to do, it's not really that difficult at all. Going on to the second half of lesson 30, we're going to learn about the chromatic scale. And a chromatic scale, different than the major scale. Remember, the major scale has a pattern of whole step, half step, whole, half. A chromatic scale is just half, 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 half. It's every note on the keyboard. All right, we're lucky because a chromatic scale on a keyboard is easy. We just play every single note. If you're playing a saxophone or a clarinet, you have all of these extra fingerings that you got to learn to create your chromatic scale. For us, it's very simple. All right, let's go from note to note here. As we go up, ascending a scale, we use sharp note names. All right, no big deal. So C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A sharp, B, and C. So that was not difficult at all, especially just all we're doing is finding the note on the staff, writing the note name, and then when it has a sharp, you write the sharp. Now, if you notice in that example, you didn't use the note names E sharp. So when I went from E to F, okay, that is already a half step, so I didn't need to say E sharp F, because that would be in inharmonic tone, okay? So there's not a black key between E and F, so I just use the very next key. All right, that's pretty simple. The descending chromatic scale uses flat notes. So as we write the note names for the C chromatic descending scale, you'll notice that there's several notes missing. So any one of these that are missing, we're going to draw in the missing notes and write the note names in. All right, let's do this a little bit at a time. C to B flat to A. Now I'm missing one here. This is a G. So what is in between A and G? I don't use G sharp, I use A flat because we're going to use all of the flat note names. All right, here's an F, so I know that this is going to be G something. It's got to be G flat, right? Here's an E. If I keep going, obviously E flat. All right, what's half step below E flat? D, and then a D flat, and then a C. So we always spell ascending chromatic scales with sharps because as we're going up, we're moving up half steps. So I don't do C, D flat, D, E flat, E, F, G flat. You don't think backwards with flats, you think sharps. C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E, F, F sharp, G. And it helps just to kind of like talk your way through to name all those notes in your head while you're picturing a keyboard in your mind. And then same thing going down, we use flats. All right, so we're going to draw in the missing notes on number 6 and note names for the F chromatic scale. So you use sharps for ascending, flats for descending. All right, so F, F sharp, G. Now we're going to keep going up, so G sharp, A sharp. What's above A sharp? B. All right. Now this one is already a half step, so I just say a C. This note is D, so I'm missing a, oops, I actually got that wrong. I'm missing a C sharp. I almost drew a D flat in there. So that's a C sharp, D. So I'm missing a D sharp. And then I'm also missing E. And here's my F. So here, from F to F is the ascending chromatic scale. Now I'm going back down. You have to be able to visualize the keyboard in your head, and then it makes this very simple. So I am on an F. Visualize for yourself the note that's right below F, that's a half step below F. It's an E, right? And then an E flat, and then a D. Okay, this is a D flat, C. So I could say C flat, but I don't because the note name between C and B is already a half step. B flat. Below B flat is, let me do that one better, is A. Below A is A flat, so I know I have another one there. G, and then I'm missing a G flat, and here is F. So it's kind of a tricky way of memorizing how the half steps work on a chromatic scale, all right? In practice, it's very simple. You just play every single note. You can start on any note. If I started on A flat, or if I started on F sharp, I could play the chromatic scale. I just go F sharp G, G sharp A sharp B, C, C sharp D. I would go up the chromatic scale like that, okay? Or down. Doesn't matter, it's just half steps. But in this, it really cements that idea of how you move with half steps using sharps and half steps going down using flats. Long-winded explanation for a chromatic scale. If you got that down, I'll meet you in our final review to finish up this 5-minute theory book.